Welcome, fam, to Renewal. Renewal is a program about stories of purpose of different ladies and gentlemen through their walk of life. And today we have an amazing guest. She's called Joan, and her story is so spectacular because it's about being broken, but out of this brokenness, there's light that comes out of this brokenness. Karibu sana, Joan.
Thank you for having me.
There's something interesting about your story because it talks about beauty. Yes, there's the external beauty, but the internal beauty that actually makes you you.
Yeah.
So who is Joan? What really makes Joan? What is that defining thing that actually, if you define it for somebody, really defines who Joan is?
Great. So, as you said, my name is Joan, and I am a young woman who is in pursuit of purpose and God's heart.
Wow.
So, if I was to have a mission for life, it would be that mission statement that I am in pursuit of God's heart and purpose.
Why is it so important for people to find and know their purpose in God specifically?
Wow. Because God did create you. And so, just as it is with an item, if it has issues, you take it back to the manufacturer because they know it quite properly for them to be able to pull out what the problem is. So it is with God. So God did create us, and the Bible says that even before we were born, He knew us. Before we were formed in our mother's womb, He knew us. And so He had already established who you are on earth. And so yours is to align to His purposes. Yours is to get back, to be restored back to Him in that oneness. And through that, He now begins to reveal who you are and your purpose and who He called you to be.
And are you in a position probably to tell us what is your life purpose? I know you've said that you're in pursuit, but what really is your life purpose?
I think one thing is that I keep saying that purpose is a lifestyle. And it's not something that you can say, oh, for my 70 years that I live on earth, this is what I will be doing. I tend to take purpose as a daily journey. So every single day there is something that has my name written on it that God purposed for me to do that day. And so in the long term, one of my greatest purposes is to restore the lives of teenage girls that are working in brokenness and do not know themselves, and to really help them get their identity in Christ. That is my long-term purpose for sure. But another line of purpose that I would also do that is ministry, and of course merging those two is bringing that into coalition. I would say that that is my purpose. It is to bring restoration to girls by helping them realize their identity.
When you talk about teenage girls, is it a group of people that you're exposed to, that you meet? Why is it so important for you?
Exposed to, for sure. So when I finished high school, I started working in a high school that I actually went to.
Wow.
So when I finished,
like an alumni.
Yes, an alumni. So when I finished high school, they called me back to disciple the girls. The school is very focused on building that area of their life spiritually, and so discipleship is a very important aspect of that high school. And so throughout the years, of course, I had grown in that, and they had seen potential in me to be able to mentor other girls and disciple them. And so I came back.
A program that they had seen through a program.
Yes. Both CU.
Are you in the CU?
Yeah, I was in the CU Bible study. We used to have services on Wednesdays, and so sharing the word sometimes. And just my journey of my spiritual life and how I had grown throughout the 4 years was convincing to them that I needed to come back and really disciple the girls. And so I went back to my high school, and 4 years later, still discipling the girls, still working with them that journey. And so over time, I have really developed a passion for teenage girls to just work with them.
There's something interesting about you because your story is about beauty in brokenness. What are those areas of brokenness that you normally probably in your pursuit in meeting the girls?
Yeah.
What are those areas of brokenness that you feel so empathized towards when you meet the girls in their areas of life?
Yeah. I would say two. One is loss. Like encountering a girl that has been through a loss of a loved one. For me, it really touches my heart. And identity. Just for them to realize who they are, and specifically in Christ. Identity crisis is something that I've also seen in my life, and so I do empathize and really get to that place where I relate with
How
them.
did it come through in your life?
Identity crisis or the
Identity
loss?
crisis.
Identity crisis. It was all in high school, and I think also primary, because I was raised up in a village, somewhere in Naivasha, and so coming to high school where there are very different people of different classes could really be, and also coming from primary school where I was actually a leader and doing so well and everything, and so coming to a new environment really did trigger something in me. And so being someone who is introverted and finds it a bit difficult to start conversations with people, I found myself my identity crisis was not really into peer pressure. It was in finding comfort in my space. And in my space, I mean, I don't want to relate with people. I just want to be in my own cocoon and just be comfortable there. And later I found out it was a self-esteem issue, because it is just the place of, am I enough to have conversations? Am I enough to build relationships? Am I going to fit in? I didn't realize that the uniqueness of it is the beauty of it. And so I did really struggle with that for quite some time, especially in high school.
And where did you come to a place of uniqueness? Is it somebody that also walked you through discipleship, or you just found your way out? How did you come to a place of now belonging, to really understand who you really are?
Yeah. I would say yes, discipleship has been a great part of my life.
While in high school?
Yes, when I was in high school. And because I started that since Form 1, but I really started opening up and being open to it in my senior years, so in Form 3 and Form 4. But I would say one of the greatest things that have made me realize the uniqueness and the beauty of my journey is just coming back to disciple the girls and feeling like I have to grow up faster in order for me to be able to disciple them, and really being in the place of telling myself that I can never take someone on a journey I've never been. And so walking that journey of really getting to love me, understand my uniqueness, understand the beauty in that, and even bringing in therapy in that, I was able to come to terms with that place. But I would say that my biggest push was I wanted to speak something that is my life. I didn't want to read them books and tell them you need to be unique. No, I wanted to live that. And so for me, that was the greatest push of it.
In your conversation, I pick that salvation is at the center stage of even your life.
Yes.
What's your story to salvation? How did it come about? And where were you really before even God opened this grace of salvation to you?
I'd say I would credit that to growing up. I grew up in a Christian family, that's for sure. My mom is a very prayerful woman, and I grew in that environment of church, going to church every Sunday, doing the things, not being rude, not being a good person, and of course because that is what we were told that salvation is. And so I gave my life to Christ in class 7. Despite having grown up in a Christian environment, my mom really didn't want us to become the people that say, I'm a Christian because I grew up in a Christian family. And so I gave my life to Christ and accepted Christ as the Lord and Savior over my life in
so
class 7.
So no peer pressure, no nothing. You straight on the narrow.
Straight, I wouldn't say that for sure. In high school, of course, it is quite here and there. But I would say
the challenges probably in high school that you faced.
Peer pressure for sure.
What for specifically?
I would say just wanting to be the person, like the big girl, what are the teachers telling us? And
hope you never led a strike.
Well, never. One time I almost got a suspension because the teacher said I was rude to him. I still don't think I was rude, but he thinks I was. But I think that was my greatest, I would say the one that was like big for me. I think that made me shrink back. I was like, oh no, I'm not about to get a suspension in high school.
And going back to a very strong Christian family.
My mom would be very mad with me. And considering I was also, so the school that I went to offered scholarship to girls that came from needy homes and the ones that wouldn't be able to afford school fees because it is a private school and so it's quite expensive. And so they did provide that scholarship. And so being a student on scholarship, you would not want to mess up that because it is a gift and a blessing. And so that was something that I don't think you want to do.
So in high school, did you ever come to a place of backsliding or
No, and I would say in a generation that does not believe in that, Because I think our generation is acquainted to this place of I want to give my story and be like, oh, I was this party girl and I was this, but I keep saying my story is a story of preservation, because it is possible to walk through high school and never be involved in that. And I'm not saying, oh, there's this path of perfection, but I'm just saying God is able to preserve you in a way that you are hidden where you are. And I would credit that to the people I found that went before me, especially in the CU. Like I had two women that really walked with me through that journey.
Mentorship.
Yes, and I think for me that is part of the reason I really stood out in high school. So
What are those things that salvation made you stand out amongst other ladies, other girls in school?
yeah, I think it's just my daily pursuit. And when I say daily pursuit, I mean one of my strengths is consistency. And so if it is devotion, if it is sharing the word, if it is discipleship, I was always consistent.
What's your gift?
My gift would be the word, teaching the word.
Ah, you're a teacher.
Yes,
Wow.
teaching the word.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. What is that teaching in the Bible that actually had a very strong influence on you?
It's in Malachi 3:18 that there is a distinction between those who serve the Lord and those who do not.
Wow.
I think for me that scripture took me through my 4 years of high school.
Wow.
That there will be a difference. There will be something that sparks out in you. There's such a beauty in the glory of God that, like, just being able to be someone who is born again, loves Jesus, is intentionally pursuing the Lord. I would say that was my uniqueness for sure. Yeah.
And you mentioned about identity crisis, and you mentioned brokenness.
Yes.
Your story also is about brokenness to an extent.
Yeah.
What is it all about, the brokenness? I know there's the beauty part,
Yeah.
but there's also the broken part.
Yeah.
And as human beings, we also don't just live a life of perfection in terms of everything aligns in our path,
For sure.
but there are those instances that there are valleys
Yeah.
and there are hills. So what was your valley?
My valley was the loss of my dad. And I keep saying to myself, I don't think there is anything that will ever change my life like the way that one did. Growing up, of course, dad was present, very present. I was a daddy's girl. I tend to believe I was his favorite. My
Last born in
sisters
the family?
might kill me for this one,
Last
but
born in the
no,
family? Okay.
second last. So I have a younger brother.
Okay.
But I grew up in such a setup of love, and of course not the verbal, because African parents, I think that is something they
So
need
they
to
are also
understand. Yeah, they are. But the place of the hard work I saw my dad put in to take us to school, I think for me that is definitely a love language.
And how could you discern? What are those specific things that you were seeing that were being motivated by love from your dad?
I would say paying school fees on time, being there for the school meetings, being very mad when you don't perform, for sure. He wanted the best for
Were
us.
you a science girl or literature?
Humanities and literature, for sure.
Okay.
Literature, 100%. So I, after all through primary school, I did see that in my dad for sure, and I saw him take pride in me doing so well in school, and him constantly being so happy. And I knew he was very proud because I would hear him have conversations with friends, and that would be, yes, that would be such a topic. Like, he's very happy to talk about it. And so all through, I've grown up knowing my dad is so proud of me when it comes to academics and anything else in life, because I did very well in primary school and even in high school at some point, and even in leadership in primary school. I was a leader then.
Perfect.
Yes, I was. And so when I came to high school now, because I was under scholarship, and so I was very excited because I was like, well, my dad at least is going to save some bit of money for me to go to school. And so went to high school, performed very well in Form 1 and Form 2. And when I got to Form 2, my dad fell ill. And it was not like this big deal. It was just stomach ulcers, like the usual. People are like, oh, I have acidity and everything. And so he used to take meds once in a while. And so when I went home for the first time, I noticed something was off with him, but I didn't bother to really question
like
that.
physically, health-wise?
Yeah, physically, health-wise, I noticed that.
His interaction with you, did it
Yeah,
change?
it changed because he
So
didn't
that
want
must
to be
have really
around.
affected you.
Yeah, he didn't want to be around as much because we would notice that he's not okay. He had lost a lot of weight, and it was so unlike him to not even ask how we're performing in school. That was so unlike him, and so I realized something was off. So when I went back to school, the first break now when I went and he was unwell. When I went back to school, it was definitely bothering me, and so constantly I used to call home and ask my mom how my dad is doing and everything, and of course my mom would be like, he's awesome, he's very good, you know. And even when I call him, he would put up a voice, you know, to really make me know that I am okay. But when we went home during the midterm, coincidentally my sister and I went during the same time, so in Form 2 in second term. So when I went, my dad was bad, like terrible health-wise. He was not even getting out of the chair. Like he would sleep there all day. And so I was wondering what's happening. So that night, when we went home, he got worse, and apparently I was sound asleep, never heard anything. And my sister tells me that he struggled. He was even struggling to breathe all that the whole night. I found out later that it was gastric cancer. I didn't actually know that it was cancer at that time. I just thought it's stomach ulcers. I found out later when I found his medical documents. I found out it was gastric cancer. And so the next day he was taken to the hospital, and I remember that morning him asking me to go and say hi, and I didn't want to see him, and so I didn't go. I just felt like it would be such a breaking moment for me, like I didn't want to see him in that state. And so when he went to the hospital, he didn't come back. Yeah, he passed away that day. So that is when I lost him.
I mean, how do you take such a news for a person who really was so
close to me? Yeah, I didn't find out until like later that evening, because my sister broke the news to me. So I was just coming back home. I was from a friend's place, and I come back home, and the car was back, and so I was like, oh, I think mom came back and dad came back. And I met my sister, and she looks very emotional, like even her eyes could tell something is off. And so I asked her, hey, did mom come back? And she said, yeah, but dad passed away. And that's how, like, the news was broken to me. Yeah.
Wow.
And so I'm in the midst of confusion. I'm like, what did you say? And so that really was the beginning of the brokenness, for sure. That very moment was the beginning of the brokenness.
I mean, I'm just trying to understand how close you were to your dad, and then this news comes that you're really so broken. What transpired emotionally, psychologically? How do you process such information?
I'd say for quite some time I was unconscious, so I don't quite remember a lot happening at that time. But I remember going to my room, and at night so many people were in the house, and I'm just like, wait, you guys are here to discuss about the burial already, you know? And so many people were in the house. I saw my relatives come, my neighbors, my mom's friends, and so family, and so many people. And at that point, I didn't even know how to react to it. I didn't know who to tell, like maybe the friends from school, to just let them know what I just found out. But that particular period was one of the most difficult, yet when I compare it to after was actually more difficult than that particular moment. I'm
trying to understand actually the after. Like, how did you, what are those things that you fought so hard so that you could retain yourself, this Joan that really loved that? What are some of the challenges that actually happened afterwards?
Yeah. So after the loss, of course I had to go back to school, because remember it was just a midterm break, and so after all this I have to go back to school and really get to focus. So how do you exactly focus after such a thing has happened? And so of course I had to go back to school, and I found that the time between burying my dad and going back to school was a very short time to get to like process, okay, like what just happened. So when I went back to school, it was one of the heaviest times of my life. In fact I went back and there were exams at that, during that period. And so I go back, I'm meeting my friends who knew what happened, and so there's also even the place of them wondering, how do we even support you, because you're introverted, first of all, you have not even built those relationships. How do we support you as a class and as your friends? So that particular period, it really did get me to a very difficult place. And I think one of the ways that I realized that is because my emotions changed so much. So I used to cry a lot to relieve that. So I don't think there's a day I can count, especially in Form 2 and Form 3, that I can recall that the day ended without me crying.
I mean, it was that extended.
Yeah, it was that bad. And I tried to journal. I tried to write down things, and the more I would write, in fact, the more I felt like it was getting worse. Because me writing down how I feel, there was the place of, oh, he's not here anymore. Some days felt like, it's okay. Some days felt like, no, this was not supposed to happen.
What did your dad represent to you that it created such a hollow space in your life?
Strength, and he was part of the reason I gave it my all, because I wanted to make him proud. That for me has always been, to date, has always been a mantra in my life.
So it's like when he was out of the picture, there was not much to
yeah,
strive
they have
for.
felt like, why do I need to put that much effort?
And did people around you notice this?
They did.
Did they really understand how he was such a pillar in your life?
Of course not. I think the only people that got it were the people that were close to me. And there were very few. Being someone who, again, and that actually contributed to me building up even more walls. I don't want to let people in because of the fear of losing you. Like, I don't want to be so close to you and then the next minute I check, we are not friends anymore. And not just death, but like we just parted ways. That is a fear for me. Till date, I'm still praying that God would help me really get to overcome it.
Really build
fully.
up even to this area in your life.
It did. I think that's why I keep saying that it was one of the places, things in my life that I look back and I'm like, this shaped so many things in me, both positively and mostly negatively. Because just putting up walls and saying, you know what, no, I don't want to talk to people, I don't build relationships in my life. And even ultimately, now it has started affecting my health. So I developed stomach ulcers, of course, because of the stress.
The stress.
Yeah, and a lot of thinking. And I started going down with my grades. Until actually even during KCSE, I didn't perform as I was supposed to perform. Because of that. Because I was in and out of school, going to the hospital, coming back. I developed like back problems. I don't even know how that came in between. But it was quite a journey.
Like you never let anybody in just to at a place of healing?
No.
Even your mom?
No.
Wow.
Not even my mom. In fact, you would think that I would use my mom to replace that gap and be like, you know what, I'll grow close to mom because she's here. It was not like that. Not even my siblings, not even my friends, nobody. I don't think it took so much for someone to get to me.
Then how did it come to a place of restoration? Have you been restored back to that place?
I'll say yes.
How did it come about?
I'd say yes because one, because of time, and two, because God is a restorer. And I began to really let God heal me. And I'm so grateful that period did not pull me away from God, because I tend to hear most people say, that moment made me question God, like, where was he when this happened? For me, it was the opposite. It pulled me closer to him. And I felt like I would cling to that, because for me, the dimension of God that really is personal is God is a father. And so really getting to that place of being close to God and getting to pray and getting to grow in that really, for me, was the place where I would say was the journey to restoration, the beginning of that journey, because it's been a long time coming.
How many years approximately?
I'd say 4.
Under that pain?
Yeah, under that pain, I would say 4. Including therapy, like therapy being in there.
Oh, you went to therapy?
Yeah, I did go to therapy. Friends being in there. being discipled, being walked through the journey.
The therapy, are you the one who made that decision, or it was an advice around friends? Or
A friend did.
Or a friend?
Because they felt like I would sink into depression because of that. I don't have anyone that I want to let in, and so they felt like I needed to see a therapist.
How
And
did
so
it help
that's
you
when
with your
I
therapy?
began. I think I'd say processing.
I think I can see different things. I can see the therapy, and then I can see discipleship.
Yeah.
I can see also the role of friends, and the last bit I can see now the role of God as the Father.
Yes.
All these phases, what did you learn from all these phases?
That you cannot do life alone. And from that I have learned the value of community, because God is a relational God. You know, that is why I keep saying that salvation is more of restoration than it is transformation. And I say that because before anything that happened with the fall of man, we were one with God.
Yes.
And so when sin happened and we were separated from God, when eventually Jesus came for us, we were restored back to that oneness. So it's not a new thing for us to have a relationship with God. It's actually restoration to where we were before the fall. And so for me, it is very important that people understand the value of community. Just the place of having relationships with people that know you, people that can call out sin in you, people that can edify you, people that can say, you know what, this is not okay, this is not right. People that can point out things, people that can pray for you, over you, on your behalf. You know, people that you don't need to sit here so that I tell you, let's pray. They can pray for you from wherever they are. For me, I have learned through all that, I have learned the value of community. And it does take time to build relationships. It does take time.
What is the role of, I'm just thinking about, probably there is a lady outside there in our audience.
Yeah.
What is the role of two things? One, someone that is passing through the same thing. What are those, probably you can say, now that you've been through that experience,
Yeah.
what are those specific and practical things somebody in the same situation can do? And two, what really does a father represent generally
Yeah.
in the life of a daughter? Because I think you are so close to him.
Yeah.
But what is the role of a father in shaping the life of a daughter?
I see.
Yes.
So I'll start with that one, and then I'll share some of the things that one can do if they're going through that situation in life. I would definitely say when it comes to father-daughter relationship, one of the symbols that they represent is strength. A father is a source of strength. And I look at is an emblem. I wouldn't say a source, I would say emblem. Is a representation of strength because of the hard work that they put in to make sure that their family stays together, that provision is done in their families, that their children can be able to eat, they can go to school, they can do all these things. I would say the emblem of strength is such a representation. And I would also say a relationship with a father shapes a lot how your relationship with any other man in life goes.
In your case, did it affect?
It did. It did because of just that fear of loss for me. The fear of loss has always been one of my greatest fears, I would say. It's just that place of being like, oh, I don't want to be so close to you because... And also sometimes it feels like I'm betraying my dad because, you know, and even meeting, and especially now that I'm in a community, even in church, and I meet different pastors, male pastors and father figures in my life, and I'm just like, I feel like, I mean, I appreciate that you're there, but I feel like I'm replacing my dad. And so it's been a struggle over the years. Even during Father's Day, I'm like, oh, I want to gift someone, you know, who is a father figure in my life, but then it feels like, oh no, this should be a gift to my dad. And I keep saying that nobody will ever replace him, and nobody will ever take that place where you feel like, oh, now this person is like my dad. I don't think it will ever get to that extent. And I think one of the things I keep saying, maybe it's a personal issue I have with people, when they make it look like their moms are their dads, I don't think that is a possibility. Like, it is so different for when it comes to parental roles. Like, the role your mom plays, your dad at some point can never play it. It is such a different relationship. And so for me, I've just learned to understand that this is my mom. I appreciate she's here. I appreciate she's filling the gap, but dad is not here, and that is the truth that I have to live with. But to answer your question on the relationship between a mother and a daughter,
Yes.
I would definitely say a mom should be a friend. the moment you learn to build the friendship with your mom,
Yes.
it just brings out something, because your mom has been there, and especially with girls, your mom has been where you are. Maybe generations changed, but many things haven't changed, and they always know better. Reason being, they've been through that journey. So what they speak of is a lot of wisdom from experience. And I would also say your mom wants the best for you. She's not competing with you. She doesn't want to be any better than you are. She wants the best for you. So most times when mothers are giving us the advice and speaking truth into our lives, I think they're speaking it from the place of, I want the best for you. That's why I keep speaking this truth.
And the practicalities for somebody that is passing through the same experience,
Yeah.
or is in such a hollow space,
Yeah.
Out of brokenness, what would you tell them?
I mentioned earlier that I work with teenage girls a lot in discipleship, and I have seen some of them walk through loss, for sure, loss of their mothers, of their dads, of their siblings, of even their grandparents who are their guardians, and
So is that the biggest issue that keeps cropping up when you engage with the teenage girls?
I'd say yes.
Wow.
And part of it is because they know my story.
Yeah.
And so they feel like I can relate with this
Yes.
person because they've been through this, they know what it
So it's
means.
something that you share openly.
Oh yeah, gladly.
Yeah.
I love to see people look into that and see, despite the fall, despite the valley, there's still hope on the other side. There's still the reality and the truth that all things work together for good. And I'm gonna get to that in a minute, but one of the things that I keep saying is feel all the emotions. When you're going through loss, feel it all. Don't try to paint it with a picture of, oh, I've already accepted, they're already gone. Oh no, process it all. If it means writing, if it means therapy, if it means being around friends, process all the emotions. That is the way you heal. And I would also say, do not cover up that wound. I keep giving the example of, if I have a wound on my arm right now, if I cover it up without letting it heal, when I open it up, it gets like the bandage gets off with a piece of your flesh, because it's worse. It gets worse and worse and worse. But the moment I put medicine on it, I'm taking medication and I'm not hiding it, because wounds love open spaces. It doesn't need to be covered. It's not a fracture, it's a wound. And so the moment you let it open, the more it gets to heal. The more it gets to heal. And so when I say open in this case, what do I mean? Talk about it. Write about it. Think about it. Don't stay in that loss, in the place of self-pity, but I keep saying it's okay not to be okay. I would say grief and loss is a journey. I'm telling you, there are days I will wake up and I'm like, I am so good. The joy of the Lord is my strength. I am happy. I am well. The next day I wake up and I miss my dad. The next day I am so well. I want to talk to people. I want to be around people. The next day it feels like, no, I just want to be alone. And also know how your healing takes place. For some people, healing looks like hanging around with friends more. For some people, it looks like spending time alone.
So somebody can heal by themselves.
Yes, yes, you can heal by yourself, and that doesn't mean like now shut everyone off and just stay by yourself. Yes. Sometimes it's when I'm feeling this, I love to retreat. I love to be alone. So also know what really works for you as a person. But I would definitely say that grief and loss is a stage in life that everyone must go through. It doesn't have to be necessarily the loss of a loved one. It can be the loss of a job. It can be the loss of a partner. It can be the loss of an item, a phone. It can be. And so loss is a part of life. So embrace it, and walk the journey. Yeah, it's gonna take time, but eventually you'll get there. And getting there doesn't mean like, oh, now I'm over it. Now I don't think about it. I don't care. It happened. Getting over it looks like healing and seeing the beauty of it and seeing the other side. The other side of, oh, this happened to me, but it shaped this in me. Because for me, the positive part that I took from it is to never take people for granted. As long as you have them around, spend time with them, treat them, don't postpone. You might run out of time, and it is very expensive to get another time.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm looking at your story like actually a storybook.
Yeah.
The theme being beauty in brokenness. So if you were to do a conclusion to this book and sending out to print, what would be the strong conclusion to anybody that actually does your career? What would be a strong conclusion to this book, to this chapter of your life?
Life is beautiful, that is for sure. And brokenness and beauty are not opposites. There is actually beauty in that brokenness. Every brokenness in your life, embrace it. Embrace it because it comes with a reason and a purpose. And I speak specifically to believers and to people that know Christ. Know that there is hope on the other side. And whatsoever brokenness that you're going through right now, at the end of it all, maybe not now, maybe not next year, maybe not 5 years to come, but one day you will get to experience the beauty in it. Remember, all things work together for the good of those that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So if that is you, know that whatsoever loss and the grieving that you're going through right now, God is able to turn that into beauty. And I would also say, to conclude that, is that the journey of life is just like a movie, I would say. And every scene is so different from the other. Some seasons look better than the others. Some seasons feel better than the others. But the end of it all, at the end of it all, when you look back, I hope what you see is the beauty that God brought out in the hills and in the valleys.
As Joan has put it, all things work for good. And no matter situation you're passing through, no matter how dark that hole is, no matter how deep that valley is, always remember what Joan has mentioned. Everything works for good. So find the good in whatever you're passing through. That has been our renewal. I was Joel. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Sharing a story, just being open to share a story.
Gladly.
And we hope these and many stories will keep on inspiring you to be that better self, that better version of yourself. Until next time, see you and have a good time.